could talk about the team up north for a long time, and their failed drafts and so forth, but we don't need to do that.
North is Michigan.
Oh, I consider Browns to be up north. Are you ready? Okay, I'm gonna call to order this Utilities Committee meeting for October 14th. If you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Chris, will you do it for us?
Yes, sir. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great. Kathy, will you take roll, please?
Walter.
Here.
Barstow.
Here.
Jefferson.
Here.
Okay. Chris, I think we all have the information provided in our typical blue folder. If you want to start with the proposed budget items, that would be great.
Thank you, Mr. Walter. I just thought that with the next council meeting, the budget will be coming to council. And I thought maybe it would be a good idea to take a minute and answer any questions the utility committee might have about the CIP budget proposal as it's coming in now. The first packet you have, it's highlighted on the front. Those are the projects that we have decided with the administration are going to be in the not funded category. And then we have the second stapled together grouping is the CIP proposal as it will come to council. The one thing I wanted to point out was the not funded programs. If you look at those, they're heavy on sewer collections and lift station upgrades. And I do want to throw the caveat out that the I&I study is not complete, and that will probably drive a lot of the priorities of the collection system. So some of these could get moved in future years off of unfunded. Some things that are funded could go to the unfunded. Just depends on what that study brings back to us. So.
Okay, well, I'll open it up to the committee to see if there's any questions of what the items that have been provided during our special meeting. I'm sure we all got to kind of look at them at that point, but is there anything, I should ask that question, is there anything you wanted to point out has been added since that special meeting?
No, nothing's been added since the special meeting. I just thought we'd have the time to answer questions about what was presented there.
Okay, well, I definitely had a couple questions from your list, but I'm gonna see if the committee had anything that they want to start with. And by the way, I appreciate bringing this up to the utility committee to talk about ahead of time. This is the appropriate place to vet this,
Absolutely.
I guess.
Absolutely.
Chris, on the projects that are funded,
Mm-hmm.
Water Cap 602 project, $100,000 for the emergency interconnect with the district. Is that that's proposed for next year, but is that the result of the contract, or the revised contract that we worked?
Yes,
out
sir.
with them? Okay.
Yes, sir, it is. That's 50,000 from Southwest Licking and 50,000 from us is already in an escrow account.
Okay.
But that is the
All right.
accounting line for it.
All right.
And to follow up that, I had a question about that. You've got 100,000 in the budget. It's 50,000 from us?
Yes.
So so when you say 100,000, are we holding the district's money?
Yes.
And so that's how Jamie's accounting for it. So it's really
Correct.
our 50 and their 50 together.
Correct. Their 50 is coming
It's our
as a
responsibility to
revenue
build it,
and
right?
expenditure.
I fully
Yes.
understand that.
Yes.
Okay.
We get a grant from
Right.
Warpsy or something, it's, it's not our tax, not city collected tax dollars, we have to account for it as if it were.
Got it. Okay, perfect. That takes care of that question. Good. Because I remembered clearly it was 50,000.
Yes. you were intricately involved.
50,000 in a penny. Okay. Any other items, Todd?
I was just curious about that, I
Okay.
would say something else, yep.
Mr. Epperson, anything that you see on there you want to?
Just the Jefferson Water Street project, that's a grant, correct?
That's what we're hoping for. So the 290 is the total cost of the project. We're filling out an OPWC application. Our hope is 20% local share, 80% grant. But the 290 that'll actually come out of our ledger would be 20% is what our hope
That
is.
was my next
But we have to account for the full. It's very similar to the interconnect line.
Okay.
So.
I guess I had a couple. I'm gonna start with one of my favorite items is the, the little vehicles, ATVs.
Yes.
And so, in looking at that, what exactly do you plan on doing with that ATV at the plants?
Right, so the ATV, my concept for that is, so one, we have a golf cart that we use now. It's about 10 years old and it goes in the shop about every 6 months. They use it to get stream samples at the plants. So just to give you an idea, the amount of distance that you have to walk to get the samples is 2,000 feet at the plant, and that's 3 times a day. In the winter, obviously that gets to be inconvenient. So replacing the golf cart with something that had a enclosure on it was something that we were thinking about. But the big selling point to me for this particular project is that it would also have a plow blade on the front of it. So what we do now is we hire Youngquist, we budget $5,000 a year, and they come out and they plow the 3 plants, both water plants and the wastewater plant. We started doing that when our plow pickup truck broke. We got it fixed last year, but in order for one person to use that one plow and do all the parking lots, one of those plants won't get plowed till about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So my concept would be that this would be at the wastewater plant, and the pickup truck is at the water plants, where Eric, our water plant operator, would plow both the water plants when he goes to do those checks. This would be available to plow the wastewater plant with the wastewater operators. That's where it would stay there. And doing that after 4 years of not paying Youngquist would pay for the ATV with the plow blade on it. It'd also be street legal and could be driven from stream samples at the wastewater plant down Creek Road to get the stream samples at the water plant if needed. So that was the kind of the concept behind it.
Okay. I've kind of not been involved overly with what maybe the parks have, or what maybe the service department has. I know the parks now have a skid steer.
Yeah.
And obviously they don't plow in the wintertime, and they're not using a skid steer in the wintertime. I'm just trying to figure out, do we really need to use $8,500? Not that that's a big number
Right.
or anything like that, but if we were able to come up with a great plan to utilize some of the equipment we already have in the city, I certainly understand your idea about having to go take samples.
Right.
Right, you gotta go, that's probably saving a bunch of time to try to use this.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that answers my question. It seemed like one of those, wants rather than needs, but it sounds like you've got some needs involved there. So, last one I've got is the lift station standby generator. And I know we've
Yes.
talked about, we got into a big discussion about the scenic view and how, we didn't really need a generator there.
Right.
Is this something that we need to have? Is past due getting a generator there?
I think it is. So what we've got now, we've got the settlement, the admin lift station, River Forest, and Sugar Mill lift stations. All 4 do not have a standby generator. So if the power goes out, we have a trailer generator that we will take to a station to power it. If the power goes out to multiple stations, then you have to power it, pump that station down, unplug it, run to the next station, pump it down. So the settlements lift stations generator is going to be provided through the Heron Manor project. When they go to phase 3, they have to provide a generator for that lift station. The remaining 3 are on that staggered tiered plan that you see in the CIP plan to try and get them all up to speed. The difference between these lift stations and the Scenic View lift station is that Scenic View is powered by individual pumps in the houses. These lift stations are all entire neighborhoods that if the power goes out, we have to get them quick before they end up in people's basements.
So that brings me to exactly that point. If we really don't necessarily need one at the Scenic View, although we're requiring one, could that be utilized at a different lift station, potentially? Or be on a trailer also, and therefore be able to be mobile?
I think using it at a different station would be a little difficult because the project wouldn't be connected to that station. This sewer system doesn't go into that lift station. So I think that might be a bit of a hiccup. A trailer mounted generator would be something that could be given, but I think the generator that we're talking about for Scenic View is minuscule compared to what these generators would be, because it only has to handle one house-sized pump, whereas these generators have to handle the entire neighborhood's
Got it.
flows.
Okay.
So,
Again, just going to the idea of if we had two trailer
Right.
generators, now we can cover more.
right, we definitely can. The only drawback would be if a person's on call and it's 2 hours before they can come in, get the generator hooked up, drag it over to the lift station and connect it. If we go with this plan, it'll be instantaneous. The power
As
will
long
just
as
happen.
this is where the outage is.
Correct, correct.
If the outage is over at the one without the generator, then this plan doesn't work as well.
Right, but if, in the years in the future moving forward, the other generators get, so I'm just kind of trying to stagger them one a year for the next 3 years, and then Harriman Manor will do the fourth one.
Okay.
What's the extended maintenance cost on the standby generators?
So we have a, I don't know what the exact number is, but I will get it and email it out. But we have a maintenance plan with BBS down the road, and they come out and they do all of our generators twice a year. But I would have to get, I'd have to break down, I'd have to get the quote to give you the actual numbers of it.
Is it like is there a limit on the generators, or do they charge you per generator?
They charge you per generator, and it depends on the size of the generator. Like the one at the wastewater plant is huge, and it costs more to keep that maintained than the lift station ones that are smaller. But the other lift stations one would be similar. I could definitely give you an example or a number to go by on what we pay every year to get them maintained.
Just for my education as well, but meter replacements, is that like meters on city equipment, or is this meters in people's homes for reading?
These are the water meters that are in people's homes. So we take half the money for it comes out of water and half of it comes out of sewer. And it's an annual continuing process to replace old meters, and the meters they fail from time to time, and to upgrade them.
About how many does that allow for replacement?
So this price, I would say, so it'd be right around 700 for the year. So it also covers the, so when you build a new house, you pay a capital, capacity fee, it goes into capital improvement funds. You also pay for the meter, but this is the line that we pull those meters out of. So new builds also come out of this line, on top of ones that fail and ones that need upgrading because they're old. And that goes every year. There's also a portion of it, the money goes to the meter, and another portion goes to the radio read unit that's on the outside of the house that sends us the reading. Those things actually have a battery on them. They die about every 7 to 10 years.
Yeah, I was getting ready to ask, what's the life expectancy on the metered equipment?
The metered equipment, so we've pulled them out that have been in houses 60 years, but they lose accuracy over time. The parts, they're not as tight tolerances, and so when you lose accuracy on the meter, you're losing revenue on what you're actually selling. People are using 1,000 gallons and it's only showing up as 800, that kind of thing. So we anticipate about 10 years per meter and radio read unit. About every 10 years you got to replace them.
Just out of curiosity, how far along are we on getting new high-tech meters in everybody's home? Is that project completed, and are we just now
Yes.
replacing ones that have worn out?
Yes, that
Okay.
project was a huge project. It was very beneficial for us. It's completely finished.
Okay.
So now we're just doing, like you said, we're doing upgrades and new builds
Okay.
moving forward. It took meter reading from a 2-week process where I could only read half the system every month, 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks read the other half, to now it's about 6 hours and we read everybody in town.
My dad's first job was as a meter reader for Cleveland Electric Illuminating, and in those days you went around with a book,
Yeah.
and you went to every meter and you wrote down the number that it showed, and then you went to the next book or
What-
the next meter, and then you went back and turned that in, and then they got billed.
When I first started in '04, we had gotten away from the books for about 2 years, and when the equipment went down, I've done a couple book reading weeks, and they're not fun. But if you're out there in the rain trying to hide your pen, yeah.
He knew every road and street in Geauga County.
You do learn that pretty
Probably,
quick.
probably every dog.
I was
Every
just about
dog.
to say, you learn the dogs
Um,
very quick, yes, sir.
Every woman who came to the door naked. Yeah, you think it's a pretty boring job, but it's not, actually. So,
I sympathize
Just
with
watch
them.
out for those cookies, those.
Yeah, I know, just,
With the-
I'm sorry to digress, but that was just a statement, we talked about that, maybe think of that.
If you indulge me, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to learn.
No, absolutely.
What is the I&I corrective action program?
So that is a study that we took in under the EPA when they renewed our permit last year. Identified that I&I is infiltration and inflow. So it's rainwater and groundwater that gets into our pipes. It mainly happens in Old Town where the infrastructure is older. That's clay pipe. There's a joint every 3 feet. So that water gets in and it reduces our capacity at the wastewater plant to actually treat wastewater. And the EPA enacted a clause in our permit where they originally they wanted us to eliminate every source of I&I in the next 5 years, which is an astronomical project to try to take. But we did some negotiating and they narrowed it down to where we had to do a study of our system, identify where the I&I problems are the worst, and then identify how to correct those. And then in this permit cycle, which we got about 4 years left on, we have to pick a project and do it.
And that's what that broke up
So-
over the next 5 years. is to pay for
So,
that project,
and that's
or
more of
is
a
that-
placeholder, to be honest, that 40,000 that's in there every year, because it just depends on what the results come back. Some of these projects can be extremely expensive and we'd need grants and we'd need funding sources to do them. But I figured 40,000 a year was a good placeholder. The plan itself will come back in January of 2021. I'll review it and we'll submit it to the EPA in February. But at that point, we'll have a real good idea on where's our worst spots in the system, what needs addressed the most, and then we can get a more defined picture of the I&I plan moving forward. But 40 for 2021 will be plenty because we don't necessarily have to accomplish anything in 2021. We have to get a project done by 2024.
And one of those projects could be the Linda Third Street sewer replacement,
Absolutely.
the unfunded. And are there grants for that? Are there,
So I believe there are grants out there for infrastructure. Finding them is something that we're struggling with. And luckily we have a meeting with somebody who thinks they can help us get that kind of thing. But yes, this unfunded list and the I&I results are the number one thing I think that we need to find funding for, because they can be such large dollar items, especially the Creek Road lift station, which everything dumps into, and that's going to be a $1 million plus to get that thing completely revamped.
okay. Any other questions on budget items? Any other observations, I should say too? Anything that we think should be added or concerns that utility committee has that we'd want to bring up?
Well, Chris, maybe this isn't the right place to bring it up, but I'm gonna ask you, what's the thought on, or how do you, let me back up. What's the projections on revenues versus, things that you need to do, with the increases that we have planned out for the next 2-3 years? Does it seem to be working? Is it sufficient?
So I would say that in order for us to be able to fund these projects internally, it's not enough of an increase, but it would be the amount of money we would need to increase the rates to pay for everything ourselves would be astronomical. It's not reasonable.
I'm talking about things that you feel are truly necessary to.
So I do think that the increases are working out really well. Our graphs, our trendings are basically flat, which is what the goal of the utility committee was with the rate increases. The sewer fund is pretty healthy, but I go back to this I&I results. Some of these projects can chop that down pretty quick. So I feel like we're good with the rate increases to maintain operations and do the things that are necessary.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Was I&I money set aside last budget?
There was for the study itself, so it was 75,000 for the study itself, and they came out and put in flow meters. They analyzed all of our camera data, smoke testing data, and they've applied it all to a GIS, our GIS map. So that portion it's almost like an engineering portion was paid last year.
So there's no like carryover or placeholder?
Not for the budget. There's money left on that PO, but it's already spoken for from last year's, and that'll carry over until we're done. So this 40 is all construction plans.
So Chris, I had one item, obviously with finishing, hopefully finishing next year, the large plant project.
Yeah.
The repayment loan, we're gonna start repaying that.
Right.
Is that, where would you capture that cost in the budget?
So that, to be honest, that would be a great Jamie question.
A great
but-
Jamie question?
Yes,
Did you
yes.
say great Jamie,
That would
or
be a-
just a question that would be great for
A
Jamie?
great Jamie question. A
Okay.
question would be great for Jamie. Or
There you go.
either way, depending on his answer, he could be the great Jamie. But my understanding is that would come out of capital improvements, and it goes to, I don't remember the fund number to pay the debt. So it would come out of 602. I want to say it's 604 for debt payments.
Chris, shouldn't that come out of 652?
That's what I'm sorry. Yes, that's what I meant, was the sewer capital improvement lines.
So wouldn't we have a line item in this that would show that?
So if I was correct, you would think that we do. So
Well, anyhow, I'm
that
only
makes me
asking
think that
just-
might not be. So let me get with Jamie and find out exactly where that is, because it'll be 200,000 a year.
Yeah,
Until we're
it's a
done.
substantial amount.
Yeah.
I
So
just
let me
wanted to make sure
verify
we're-
with him where that is documented in the accounting process, and I will email everybody and let them know.
I guess we can call him Great Jamie if he comes up with a good answer.
That's what it depends. I'll wait to hear the answer.
Yeah. Okay. If everybody's ready, we'll move on to the next item, which is possible Southwest Licking Interconnect and bulk water sale discussion, which we've had an initial discussion about this. I don't know if it was last meeting or the meeting before, but we talked about the potential of this, and now you have some more additional information.
Just a little update. The last time we talked, the utility committee expressed a little bit of concerns with going into another interconnect option moving forward. But the last marching orders that were given was if there was a contract that was nailed down and was solid, that we could discuss it. So I just wanted to give everybody an update on where we're at. We are still working on some draft language. The city of Pasco has taken over trying to draft language that will cover the interconnect itself, which basically mirrors the language that would cover the interconnect from the contract last year. And then there's also going to need to be, if this was to move forward, there'll need to be a three-party agreement between Southwest Licking, City of Pasco, and Jefferson Water and Sewer. The Southwest Licking District has offered to take the lead on writing that draft language. So right now, the two sides we're just trying to fine-tune some language that'll cover it, but I didn't want it to fall through the cracks, and just wanted to let you know that that's where we're at in the process. So it's still slow and in the beginning.
If you had brought this, if you already covered this, I apologize for not remembering, but do you have any idea what the potential income for the city could be for selling water?
So I did not bring those numbers with me. At the last meeting, we talked a little bit about it, but it was 300,000 gallons a day, and I don't have the numbers with me. I'd have to look them back up again. But I thought it was
340 some a year is what sounds familiar.
340 a year?
340,000 a year.
I think that's because it was. I think that sounds right in profit, because it was going to be sold at out of town rates, because the interconnect would be out of town, the customer would be out of town,
Somewhere in that ballpark.
and so the in town rate is basically our cost of producing the water. But I did not bring that document with me,
Okay.
so I can look that up and add it to the email to send to everybody. Because I did have
Well,
that.
I was just gonna say, in times of budget crunches and viruses raving havoc, maybe selling water isn't such a bad thing.
I would also add that that comes with a one-time, in the first year. It's not really a CIP fee, but there's an additional donation of money, if that's the right term. And Jefferson would pay
The donation of money to who?
to us from,
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
almost,
yeah.
think of it like a CIP fee.
So it was a one-time activation fee or something like that. That was going to be significant. And like Mr. Hickman was alluding to, Jefferson was going to pay for all of the infrastructure of the interconnect itself if this whole deal was to move forward.
and looking at some of the non-funded items, like some of those could be ticked off real quick.
They definitely could, especially on the water side. This would be all water money, no sewer at all, but yeah, the water projects tend to be a little smaller with the exception of plant upgrades.
Well, obviously, the devil's in the details. We'll find out what the contract language says and what it obligates us to.
Correct.
Can we circle back to
Sure,
something?
absolutely.
The
Go right
previous-
ahead.
So on the water, the WRF upgrade project?
Yeah.
That was budgeted under 652. For 2019, 2020 at 500,000 each year. Those are just placeholders. We didn't have I think at the time, I'm looking at the 19 budget, just happened to have it here at my desk. So I think that's where it's gonna come out of the 652. I think Mr. Hickens said that, and that's right. So 652 should reflect
Correct.
some sort of payment, if we're, assuming we have to start it in 21, it should be reflective.
So I think our first payment won't be due until 22 because the project won't be completed until 21, but it should still be, right, it should still be reflected.
It should be, we should be projecting that, so.
Yes.
This is, just for your reference, Chris, it's, SWR-14-019 was the project number that I'm looking at, make sure we're talking about
Excellent.
the same thing.
I do remember the two 500,000s, and I will definitely get with Jamie and find out where
I
that
think
money is.
Right, at the time, we thought that's what we were gonna have to,
Right.
we were gonna have to pay to get that taken care of.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
That's really the only update I had on the interconnect talks. If there's nothing else.
I think more than anything else, Chris and I wanted this group to know that it wasn't just dropped. There's still some minor activity occurring to possibly tighten it up and maybe get it to a point where we feel like we can bring it back in here.
Yeah, my position hasn't changed. I mean, I don't think I'm sure, I know Mr. Walters' position hasn't changed on this. He just said, I mean, it's, the devil's in the details with this, and, we'll to see. If it continues to be productive, then my thinking is go ahead and keep working on it. If it starts to become, pushing jello around, and you're
Right.
saying we're spending a lot of time on this, and
Right.
we're back to where we were a couple of years ago, then we have plenty of other things to occupy our time.
Yes, we do.
In the city, so,
Agreed.
okay, thanks.
Okay. And under other, Chris, what other things might you have to talk about?
So I'd like to take a minute under other and give the committee an update on the WRF upgrade project itself, the actual nuts and bolts of going through it. First, I want to start with, so we know that the project has been delayed a couple times by the contractor. They were planning on mobilizing this week and beginning the project. They did not come on Monday, which was Columbus Day. They also did not show up yesterday, so when I called them, they let me know that their superintendent had an emergency medical procedure. And so they're delaying the start another 2 weeks for either him to get done with, recover from his surgery that he got over the weekend, or for another superintendent to wrap his job up and come out with us. They still said that they believe they can meet our finish schedule of putting the oxidation ditch back online in January, because he's gonna bring in 2 crews to try and make up for the 6 to 8 weeks that we've already lost by delaying things. So I got that news today and wanted to let you guys know that it's gonna be 2 more weeks before they actually start. Running along that train, so a little bit about what we're doing right now. The oxidation ditch is where the bugs live in solution, and it's a big round tank. Right now we use paddles to stir it up and push air into the solution. Those paddles are inefficient, and that's what the majority of the upgrade is for, is to get those paddles out and put a bubbler system in the bottom of the ditch to keep everything aerated. In order to do that, we have to pump down the ditch and clean it out completely so that they can get into the concrete and mount the railings and all that. So the only option that we have as a wastewater facility is our 2 lagoon systems that we can run through. So instead of going through our normal treatment tank chain, we're diverting to go through a screen to get the big debris out into 1 lagoon for some primitive treatment. It goes from there to a second lagoon for more primitive treatment. And then it goes to the outfall, where there's a series of concrete steps, and it falls over those. It's called step aeration. as the water falls over the steps, it grabs air and churns up, and it brings your DO level up before you put it into the stream, which is good for the fish. They like high DO levels. Like I said, to do that, we had to pump down the ditch and we had to clean out the bottom. So we only have one ditch. We can't go to another one. This ditch has not been cleaned out since the last upgrade in 2010. So it's been about 10 years. So at the bottom of the ditch is a thick, soupy mess of not very pleasant solution. So that liquid had to be pumped into our lagoon systems because that's the only treatment option we have. So in the course of doing that, that slug is what we call it, of not great water, wastewater, in the lagoons has made them start to become septic. So what we noticed, we had a call about a smell at the stream, and it is a dark gray liquid that is coming out of the treatment plant, and it smells septic, which happens when the lagoons, which are finicky, don't have optimal conditions for the bugs to thrive in. And it basically, the nasty stuff on the bottom of the lagoon flips, comes up to the top, and then it gets mixed in with everything. As far as our permits go, we are meeting all of our permit requirements, with the exception, this month, we had a hit on E. coli after we went to the lagoons, which was expected. I called the EPA rep, and she said the same thing. We thought this was gonna happen. There's really nothing you can do about it. You guys are doing what you can do. But she also pointed out that E. coli is only a summer permit limit. So the last month for it is this month. So we're gonna have one violation of this month, which is explainable, and then the rest of the project will be in the winter permits. There is no E. coli limit because the winter weather takes care of the bacteria itself. So that was good news. The bad news is the less than ideal quality of wastewater that is coming out of our systems into the effluent. So again, so far we're meeting all of our permit requirements, but it's not crystal clear like it usually is. We have reached out to the EPA and let them know what we're finding, and asked them for advice on anything they thought we should be doing. They had minimal input to offer back. So what we decided to do is, after researching lagoons, when they go septic, they need oxygen, just like the rest of the bugs to live. So to get oxygen into the lagoon, we have put our 6-inch trailer pump and our 4-inch trailer pump next to each other. We're pulling out of the second lagoon, spraying it in the air, and then landing in the first lagoon. And that's aerating that solution as it lands in the first lagoon. And then it goes through the first lagoon and comes back in the second lagoon again, and then goes out to the outfall.
Could you explain that again?
So
Just
we-
kidding, just kidding.
Yes, I can. But
Todd, the real question is, what does the rainbow look like?
Yeah, really.
Sun-
it's brown. It's
It's
brown.
brown.
It's brown.
It's a brown rainbow.
You don't want to be, the wind changes
You
quick,
don't
so
wanna
we
be
found that
down
out today. So that's why I'm in jeans today. But so the other thing that we found out, Mary Ann Figgins, our new treatment plant superintendent, she had a contact at Tip City. They run on the lagoon system. It's an old system, and when it happens a lot with lagoons. They're finicky. He said when they go septic on him, he has had success with that pumping plan that we just described, and adding sodium nitrate. So sodium nitrate, the sodium kind of becomes an oxidizer and releases oxygen in the solution. The nitrate is a great food source for the bugs. And so by putting sodium nitrate in there, the thought is we'll give them some oxygen, we'll give them some food, and they'll be able to take over and get the lagoons back into check. The problem with the lagoon system is they're huge and slow. So when you make a change, it could take a couple days before anything even is noticeable. What we saw today, after a half a day of running this aeration system, and after we put the sodium nitrate pellets all across the lagoon, not immediately, within hours, we saw the solution clearing up some in the first lagoon. So I think we're taking steps to the right direction. But if this plan does not work through the weekend, by next Monday, if we're not seeing improvements, the only other alternative is to rent or purchase additional aeration equipment that would sit on the surface of the lagoon and push air into it and keep it stirred up. That is the last packet that is in your folders, is a quote from a company that does just this type of thing. And on page 2 of that, you can see that you can purchase it outright, or they also have a rent to own or just a rent pricing schedule. So the first month that you would rent it is $11,500, and then right around $2,700 every month after that. We would need it for 4 to 5 months if this plan doesn't work, if we can't get the lagoons to cooperate. There are other systems out there that are smaller and not really designed for the kind of treatment we're doing. And in talking to them, they're cheaper as well, but in talking to them, they all said, if you don't pull them out in 3 weeks when the temperature freezes, your warranty is going to be void because they're not made for this. They're made for residential ponds, for people's ponds at their houses. So I just wanted to give the utility committee that background information and this pricing schedule, because we won't really know if what we're doing now is going to work until about the day of council meeting. And if it's not working, I don't know about waiting a whole 2 weeks to bring a resolution to council to get permission to go with a system like this. So I wanted to try and lay a little bit of groundwork in case an emergency happens in the next 2 weeks, is what I'm thinking. My plan would not be to purchase it outright. Once the upgrade's back in place, we don't need these lagoons to be the most efficient things ever because they're just backups. So my plan would be, if we have to do this, to rent them until the upgrade is complete. So I just wanted to get that out there.
So all these things that you just said you were doing, was that in anticipation of or / at the direction of the upgrade contractor?
No, this is in response to an unexpected flip of the lagoons.
Oh, okay.
That's
No, I think what Todd's asking is, cleaning out the oxidation ditch / thing, that was all anticipation of the
Yes,
upgrade.
I'm sorry, I
Those
misunderstood.
were in lieu, those
Yes.
were done to get
Because-
ready for the upgrade.
Correct.
And was that done, was the tasks that you did in anticipation, were those done in a time that was directed by the contractor? Did the contractor say,
They were direct, so the contractor gave us his schedule, and then we backed it up from there.
Sure,
Yeah, so that's exactly what happened.
so I would assume we are going to ask the contractor to pick up the costs for this aeration if we have to use it, because they didn't do what they said they were gonna do.
So I think that this time frame and this situation happening is regardless of them delaying 2 weeks. So I think we would have had to pump that ditch out at whenever they started, and what we've seen now is that introducing that liquid into the lagoons is not something that the lagoons like. So I think what we've got is we've got 2 extra weeks of the ditches sitting there empty, but if he's still going to be complete by the finish point, I don't know that it really negatively affected us by him changing the schedule. I don't think his schedule adjustment had anything to do with the,
That's just, I was
Biology.
curious.
yeah.
Okay.
No,
So this
it's a
is something
good
that.
question. It's a good question, but-
Even if they had shown up as they were supposed to on Monday,
We would still be in the same
we'd
situation.
still be in the same problem.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go long.
But given the weather conditions we have, the concentration levels being exacerbated by pumping this in, could you, in the time being, temporary time frame, rather than going to this situation, and maybe different than the aeration that you're doing with the Rainbow, could you not bring back online the oxidation trenches? Because we really don't know when the contractor's gonna be here.
That is true, and yes, we could. The problem would be that we would also have to clean them out again.
Okay, so if cleaning them out cost,
10,000. It was 9,500.
they're not gonna be nearly as bad this time as the last time, right?
Correct.
So you might be a couple $1,000 to clean them back out again. I don't know, I have no idea, but
I would say we could land at 5 as a reasonable number, yes,
Okay.
yes.
So would it be reasonable to have that as your backup plan, with the idea that by bringing it through your oxidation trench again, you're now helping the lagoons have time to
To
process
settle.
that material, get their concentrations back down, and back into a working order by using the oxidation trenches to do what they were doing initially?
I do think that has merit to it. The downside would be that the time that we're going through the ditch would not be feeding the bugs in the lagoon, and they would die off. And then when we go back to the lagoon, we would have the whole startup process again. The only benefit would be it wouldn't be 10 years worth of stuff in the bottom. But the the bugs are they're relying on the food that we're giving them, because the entire treatment is going through those lagoons right now. If we pull it out of the lagoons, put it back in the ditch, then they will starve for those 2 weeks. And then when we reintroduce the flow to the lagoons,
But
they'll be
my
upset
point would
again.
be, is the concentration levels have been brought up so high that they've got a good amount of food to eat in there. And that's your whole idea, is you're trying to get this concentration back down in the lagoons to get it back where you can.
Right,
handle
but it's more, the food that we have would be great for anaerobic bugs, but the bugs that we use are aerobic bugs. So the food that's there is eventually going to need to be dredged out and dried and processed, turned into product. It's not great food for getting the colony going.
Can you purchase bugs? I mean,
You can.
Okay.
So what we did when we pumped the ditch down, we put those into, they're called digesters, but they're just other tanks we have.
Mhm.
So we're keeping those bugs alive in this digester tank, so that when we bring the ditch back online, we can pump them back and have a healthy bug colony when we start things up again.
okay.
So one of the things we could do if we run into a situation where the lagoon does not have food, we have 2 digesters full. We could pump one digester to the lagoon to give them food. It's a big balancing act to try and keep everything
I
flowing.
understand, but
Yeah.
I'm saying,
But
for your relief of the lagoons, could this not be an option? Rather than going out to, get a propeller on some skids?
It could be an option. What I worry about is if the lagoons don't rebalance by the end of the week, that this is something we're going to have to deal with all the way through January, because the lagoons are just not really designed to do what we're asking them to do at this point. So at that point, renting the aerator keeps the solution where you want it throughout the entire project, as opposed to just buying a couple weeks at the beginning by pumping through the ditch. You still don't make a great environment for the lagoon. But again, it's a waiting game. So if what we're doing now balances the bugs out and they can get the upper hand, they'll fix the lagoon environment themselves. So it's hard to answer without seeing what they're going to do.
Okay.
But it is a valid thing. I think in my mind I would take renting the aerator as a plan B and going back to the ditch as a plan C, just because of ease of operation for the operators and how we do things. But it is something we could do if, God forbid, if we get delayed again or something like that, we could say that's it. We're putting the ditch back online and we can deal with this later or whatever.
And how confident are you with the contractor's assurance that they'll get it done per the completion date originally contracted for?
So I'm relatively confident. So I would have said I'm very confident the first time they adjusted it, and then decently confident the second time. Now we're on the third incident, although it is a medical situation. You know.
And the reason why I say that is I think it's fair to put them on warning, to Todd's point. If you guys go past this and we're doing something that's extraordinary, it would then become your obligation.
It
And
absolutely
maybe that's
is.
an incentive to get to that final completion date as
Right.
originally contracted for.
So when I talked to him today on the phone, I expressed that exact fear, that you're going to push this end date back too long. We've only got permission from the EPA to be out of our permit specs for a certain amount of time. So we got 6 months of that. So if they keep pushing it back, then it becomes an issue with the EPA as well. He told me that with his plan of bringing in 2 crews, he's going to work on getting a new schedule together that shows the new breakdown with 2 crews doing the piping work, for an example. So if that all works out, I still feel confident he can do it, because before it was only going to be 1 crew. He has expressed apologies and he understands, but I think it is a great carrot to hold over him, saying this has to happen on time. This has to be finished on
Yeah,
time.
because it's gonna cause all kinds of problems. It's gonna cause all kinds of problems. They need to,
Yes.
they need to be incentivized, it sounds like. I'm, based on what you just told me, Chris, I'm not confident. I've lost confidence in this company.
As it's been rescheduled 3 times, I'm getting there with you. So,
No.
yeah.
I think it's fair to put them on notice.
Yep, I will
Right.
do that.
Mm-hmm.
No problem. I will definitely do that.
Not just that we have to go out and rent this aerator, but if we run into problems with the EPA because we get fined or
Right.
or whatever, it's all of the consequential damages that result from their continued breach of the contract.
Right.
Did you also put them on notice that we were ready for them?
Oh, yes, they're
So
aware.
So again, we perfected that claim to say that we put them on notice that we're ready. And
Yeah,
by
they
no-
actually
by no
knew.
reason of ours or no.
Right, yeah, I apologize for talking to you. They actually knew before we were going to clean it, they would say, hey, in 2 weeks, we're gonna take it offline, 3 weeks, we're gonna get it cleaned out. They knew when it was completed, they've been up to speed the whole time.
Okay.
So I kind of gently broached that subject, but I think, after speaking with the committee, a very stern and obvious,
Yeah, gently is over with. I mean, this is not like
Yeah.
the first time, but this is the third time
This
they've
is the
delayed.
third
time.
reschedule,
They
yes,
need
sir.
they need to get the cob out of their product producer and get it done.
yes, sir, I will definitely get on them about that and let them know.
And Mr. Zetz, if you need, can help you, put some,
That's it.
you know, in terms of art and things like that in there that,
Mm-hmm.
to help you out a little bit.
Yeah, use your contract clauses and so forth to
Right, he can
to
help you.
substantiate the notice.
He's probably
Right.
he's probably got a standard, some language on, on electrons that can help you out with that.
That makes
Okay?
perfect sense. I'll reach out to him as well.
They need to get going.
I think if I reach out to him, it'll be a nice professional,
Yeah.
obvious, we're not messing around.
Well,
kind of.
they'll recognize
Yes.
the language and they'll say, oh, okay.
Chris didn't write this.
No, they'll say is that they've,
They'll-
yeah, this is, they need to get going.
Right.
So-
And it's also fair
No,
to let them know what our expectations are
Absolutely.
if they don't meet the
Right.
guidelines, so, or the
Absolutely.
contract terms.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I will definitely do. I'll reach out to Mr. Zetz and, we'll work on something together and then I'll let them know.
sure, thank you.
Excellent. So I mean, that's pretty much all I had to tell you about that. It was, it's a learning experience for us going through these lagoons. We have not used them as main treatment since 1989, so we're learning as we go. And the good news about learning this is in the future, I do not want to wait 10 years to clean that oxidation ditch out. I'd like to do it every 5 years. So this lets us know kind of what to expect, how to better prepare for that in the future. But in the short term, like I said, it is, it's less than what we're used to doing over there.
Chris, just to follow one more thing on the temporary propeller.
Yeah.
Are there any other costs that, besides the rental? For instance, this looks like it's a three-phase, 480 service. Do you have that readily available?
We actually
Is this
do.
hardwired? I mean, is this something, I mean, it's not a plug-in, so.
No. So we have a disconnect box that is 3-phase 480 from previous, when the lagoons were in operation, there were aerators out there at these 2 lagoons. And we also have that lift station trailer generator I was talking about earlier also is able to provide 480 3-phase. So we have multiple power sources that we could get out there. But these costs are just for the equipment. They do not include installation.
I fully understand that.
Yeah,
And
right.
that's what I'm
So
trying to
there
point
are
out to you.
hidden
When
costs.
you do write the letter, it's, look, guys, you'll be assessed all costs that are attributable to using this,
Right.
Plan B.
Yeah, because this does not include them all. Absolutely, there are hidden costs to it as well.
Okay. So we'll know on Monday, huh?
Okay. I hope
Well,
I
I'll tell
hope
you
to
what, I
I
can't
hope to
wait.
come in Monday
This is
night
more
just
exciting.
smiling, and you guys will know why. If I come in and look pretty tired, you know why.
Just try to stay out of the rainbow.
I don't know
okay?
if Chris mentioned, but we found this out yesterday. So all that plan and all the work that they've been doing already, it was done on the fly that fast.
Okay. No, I'm not, I'm not critical of the utility department. I mean, we're completely at the mercy of this company that won't come out and do the job that they've been paid anything?
Just for materials stored on site.
Okay.
I didn't think you were. I just
No.
wanted to point out.
Oh, you didn't know if I was.
I have no doubt.
I believe as well.
No, it's just, we need to, we need to let them
Yeah.
keep going.
I think it's a great point.
Yeah.
That's why we have these conversations in
Absolutely.
committee, so that
No.
we can go back and forth, and I
Yep.
appreciate, Tim, you bringing up that
Mhm.
it was done quickly,
Mhm.
to try to make sure we had this information, and I think that's greatly appreciated.
Yeah, no, it is, no,
Thank you.
absolutely,
Thank you.
yeah, I mean, it's,
Nope.
wow.
Okay. Anything else, Chris, on your
No,
other?
sir, that's all
No
I have.
others,
No others.
Okay, anything from the committee for, any items that we've talked about, or other items that you'd like to? All right, I don't either, so I'll take a motion to,
So moved.
Second?
Walter,
yes?
Barstow.
Yes.
Jefferson.
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen. I'll get the information, send you emails out.